Monsoon.
Welcome to the Monsoon.
Wait, what's that over there?
It's an atomic monsoon!
Ah, run for your lives! Actually, don't. Listen to our show, please.
Wait, don't listen to our show?
No, please listen to our show. Please do it.
Oh, okay, yes, good. Yeah, listen to our show. You're listening to it. You're already doing that. Just keep doing that.
Keep doing it over and over and over again.
Don't run for your lives. Stay inside.
No, yeah, stay inside. It's too hot to run.
Yeah.
So, hey, Andy, how's it
We're
going?
off to a great start. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
It's officially halfway through the year.
Yeah, it is, we are recording this on July 1st, 2020, and so in celebration of the upcoming Independence Day, the American holiday of independence, we're going to talk about Japanese cartoons.
Specifically their movies.
Yes. Yeah, we thought there would be nothing more appropriate to celebrate America than talking about something from another culture.
I mean, we could talk Captain America, but...
I mean, listen, America's made up of people who, like, most of the people in America come from other countries.
It's true.
Right? And if they don't specifically, their family does. So, talking about imports, you're just talking about America in general.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's awkward.
So now we're here.
Now here we are.
The fork in the road.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm gonna swerve right into it.
Do it.
I have no honorable mentions this time around. I figured.
Neither do I.
I got enough to say about these movies. So I want to start talking about the big one.
Oh.
Let's talk Akira.
Oh, okay.
Akira came out in 1988, and it is set in the far-flung future of the year 2019. The movie opens on July 16th, 1988, which was also the day that the movie came out, and a singularity destroyed Tokyo. And over the next 29 years, the city got rebuilt and fixed up as Neo-Tokyo, but it is now plagued by corrupt politicians and anti-government protests, and just kind of overall street violence. So, I just thought I would lean right into that.
I'm just like slowly raising my hand as if I have a question, but I'm also bringing it down at the same time because I'm not going to say the obvious. Yeah. So, the other thing that's great about this movie is it takes place on, while in Tokyo, they're building an Olympic stadium for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. Which apparently Akira was actually supposed to be a part of that this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, this year was supposed to be the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, and then there's a pandemic, so people aren't traveling all over the world because the super infectious disease is going around. There is no super infectious disease in Akira, however, or there is, but in a very different way.
Okay.
So the movie kind of starts with a motorcycle gang, and we sort of learn some of the main characters, mostly Kaneda and Tetsuo. And during one of the protests that these guys are at, Tetsuo gets injured, and that awakens some latent psychic abilities in him. And while he's getting checked out by doctors, it's discovered that his psychic abilities are similar to those of Akira, or Akira, to pronounce it more accurately, but less Western-y. And Akira was the Esper, they call him, person with ESP abilities, who was responsible for the singularity that happened in 1988 that destroyed Tokyo. So there is a whole big conspiracy that Tetsuo is going to be the second coming of Akira, and there's a lot of people in the government who want to stop him because they don't want the city destroyed, and there's a lot of people who think that the second coming of Akira is, the second coming, and is going to be this wonderful, great thing that will set everyone free, and there's a lot of tension. And so the whole rest of the movie is Kaneda and their friends trying to figure out how to help Tetsuo and rescue him and escape the government and everything. And it ends with the two of them having a big confrontation at the Tokyo Olympic Stadium. Mm-hmm. And it leads to one of the best animated but grossest scenes in a movie I've ever seen.
Oh, it is disgusting.
Yeah, Tetsuo's powers just go kind of crazy, and I don't know how to describe it. I literally don't know how to describe the last scene in Akira.
Nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Nightmare
that's
fuel
fair.
And stomach wrenching fuel.
Yeah. It's weird. I will just say that. It is a very weird movie. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of people, this was the introduction to anime as a concept.
Yeah.
I didn't get all of the box office information that I usually try to get from movies, but I did catch that this movie had 160,000 animation cells, which for the duration of the movie is a lot.
That's a lot of freaking animation cells.
Yeah. It had a budget of 700 million yen, or roughly $5.5 million US, which at the time was the most expensive anime film to date.
Wow.
Yeah. The previously highest total for a budget was a Studio Ghibli film at 500 million yen. But then the next year, Akira's budget was surpassed by another Studio Ghibli film, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yay!
Which cost 800 million yen to produce. So, it was in good company.
Was the one before it? The one before was Totoro, wasn't it?
There was another one before or between those two.
Oh, okay.
I believe. I don't know
my Studio Ghibli timeline quite as well as most people who watch all their movies. I do know a few that were, that came out in the 80s and the 90s, and I do know the couple that came out in the early 2000s. That's about as far as I got.
Sure, right, yeah. And Ghibli has so many movies that it's hard to keep straight which ones came out when, unless you're super into it.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Akira. So Akira, it's one of the definitive cyberpunk anime films. It's a classic, man. It's one of those, if you're a film buff, you kind of have to see you have to see Citizen Kane and Casablanca and Prison of the Required and stuff. If you're an anime buff, you have to see Akira. There's no excuse. So, yeah. I'm just gonna assume most people that are listening to are the kind of people who would have seen Akira. So, I've gotten to see it on the big screen even.
Oh, wow.
The Film Bar in downtown Phoenix did a showing, I want to say a year and a half ago. And that was super fun, especially with all of that very pretty animation. Just getting to see that on a big movie screen was pretty great. So,
nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
What do you got?
Well, since we mentioned Studio Ghibli, I'm going to go ahead and do my first pick, which is actually, oddly enough, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Hey! It's almost like I knew that movie was on here when I found that trivia bit that connected the two movies. I put it there on purpose.
No way. It's no way. I have no words. So Kiki's Delivery Service is one of the many Studio Ghibli films. Mm-hmm. It follows little 13-year-old Kiki, who is training to become a witch, and one day hears that there's going to be a beautiful full moon and a clear sky, and decides, I'm going to start my year-long training in a different city right now. And she takes off from home, flies on her broom with her little black cat Gigi. And they fly to this town on the bay, almost like San Francisco-esque, with the hills and the trolleys and the clock tower and everything. But not really San Francisco based off the languages that are written on the signs.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's still in Japan. So
who knows? But Kiki arrives to the town and stays with a local family at their little bakery, and she does her delivery service from there, and meets she makes a lot of friends while doing her deliveries. Like, she makes friends with the artist Ursula, who lives in the woods. She makes friends with this woman named Madam, who's like this really old lady who asks her to deliver a herring pot pie and everything. And then she obviously makes friends with a local boy named Tombo, who, if any of you have seen the movie, he's the kid that, hangs from the giant Led Zeppelin as it's like crashing into the city at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because they talk about it early on. Hey, you should check out the dirigible that's coming later on. And then here it comes, and then it crashes because of a huge windstorm and everything. So, but yeah, no, and I have this all fresh in my brain because I actually literally just finished watching it again before we had this episode recording. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. So.
Yeah. No, it's been a hot minute for me too. It's sadly not available anywhere, which sucks. I know Disney Plus has talked about potentially streaming it. I know Netflix has talked about potentially streaming it. I think Hulu said the same thing. And I'm sitting here like, can just someone stream Studio Ghibli now, please?
Yeah. It turns out international trademarks and copyrights and streaming rights are all very complicated.
They are indeed.
So, yeah.
But yeah, no. So what's interesting is with this movie is that this was actually my introduction into anime.
Really?
Yeah. I did a little asking around my family, and no one seems to remember, either because their memory is just going, or they just are completely they were blanking in the moment of the phone call. But I asked them, I'm like, hey, does anyone know exactly how you guys got a copy of Kiki's Delivery Service? Like, how that came to be in our possession? And they just, all of them were like, oh, no. And I was like, oh, thanks, family, for the help. But somehow we had a copy of it, and I sat and I watched the movie a lot as a kid. It's actually a part of like my lineup of movies that I grew up with in the 90s. That part of the reason why it wasn't out of my 90s was because I knew we were doing this episode. But
sure, yeah.
But yeah, no, I positively love that film.
That came out in 1989, so
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I positively loved the film. I mean, even watching it again now, I very much relate and understand Kiki's dilemma of, having like witch's block or writer's block, or, having a creative block in your mind, and trying to find your way in the world and trying to, do all of that. Because she's doing it at a younger age. I'm doing it in my 20s.
Right.
And I also have finally figured out that Gigi is my spirit animal, just because the amount of sass that cat comes with is amazing.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, Kiki's a good choice. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's been long enough since I've seen it that I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember that I enjoyed it. So, yeah, I definitely recommend that as well.
Highly recommend it.
Okay, let's go forward a couple of years to 1991 with Ranma 1/2, Big Trouble, and Nekonlan China.
Those were words.
Those are words. So Ranma 1/2 we talked about during our favorite anime series episode several weeks ago. But for those of you who didn't hear that because this is your first episode, in which case welcome. Oh, by the way, if this is your first episode, our awesome intro music was done by the Def M Records All-Stars, and you can find them and other bands like them at defmrecords.com.
There you go.
Yeah, I knew we were forgetting something at the beginning of the show. So yeah, Ranma 1/2 is the series about a 16-year-old boy named Ranma who goes with his father on a training mission to China, and while they're there, they fall in cursed hot springs that turn them into the form of whatever drowned in that spring. Mm-hmm. So Ranma falls into the Spring of Drowned Girl, where it's a tragic story about a young girl who drowned there, and now anyone who falls in that spring takes the form of that girl whenever they are splashed with cold water. And warm water will turn them back. Ranma's father falls in the curse of drowned, the spring of the cursed spring of drowned panda, so he turns into a panda. And there's other characters that turn into a whole bunch of other things as the series goes on. Ranma 1/2 Big Trouble in Nekonlan, China came out in 91. It came out between episodes 100 and 101 of the ongoing series. So that's presumably where it would take place. And I'm going to say a lot of Japanese names in here because all of the characters have Japanese names. Sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this movie was originally released as a double feature with the 6th Urusei Yatsura movie, Always My Darling, which is a manga series also created by Rumiko Takahashi, who did Ranma 1/2 and Inuyasha and, Meisane Koku and several others. Yeah, which I didn't know until I was actually looking up trivia stuff for this episode. So that was kind of neat to find out that, you get a double dose of Rumiko Takahashi movies, which is cool. But basically the movie opens with a sequence that involves basically every character that's appeared in Ranma in a giant chase scene, which is kind of a fun even if your character isn't part of the main plot, your favorite character isn't part of the main plot of this movie, they at least appear, which is, I think that's neat.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced to a young Chinese girl named Lychee who rides an elephant to Furinkan, where the story takes place, and she demands that Haposai, who is the founder of the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts, where Ranma and his fiancée Akane train. She shows up with the scroll demanding that Haposai gives her childhood back, which goes into their long, weird backstory. During the kind of scuffle and fight that ends up, Akane, Ranma's fiancée, ends up holding this scroll. And then out of nowhere, a sky ship, like an airship, shows up, and the 7 lucky gods martial artists appear, and they see that Akane is holding the scroll, which Lychee was holding because she was waiting for her prince to come and take her away and marry her, and they could live happily ever after. But Akane's got the scroll, and so the 7 lucky gods see that it's in her possession, so they kidnap her so that they can marry the prince Kirin.
Okay.
And then the entire rest of the movie is basically the main cast of Ranma trying to figure out how to get to China and rescue Akane from the 7 lucky gods martial artists. And hijinks ensue because Ranma is ridiculous.
Sounds ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing, so I was introduced to Ranma at a summer camp where one of the other campers had some manga comics. Manga comic sounds redundant, but it was actually manga in the form of American style comics. Yeah, and Ranma 1/2 was one of them, and he explained the premise of the series, and I was like, that sounds awesome. And a couple years later, when we moved to Phoenix, actually, one of the Hollywood video stores happened to have a bunch of the Ranma VHS tapes. So we were like my brother, I was telling my brother, oh, this is that thing I was talking about where, the guy turns into a girl when he splashes water. And he's like, oh, that sounds funny. And I was like, yeah, we should rent some of these. So we rented volume 2 and the movie, because those we didn't know. Volume 1 wasn't there, and we didn't know where the movie took place. So we rented volume 2 and the movie. And so the movie was kind of my introduction to Ranma, and it was insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I do not recommend it as an introduction for literally anybody else. Don't make the same mistake that I made. But if you have watched some Ranma, which is totally, that series is just streaming on Hulu, so you can just go watch it. The movie I don't think is streaming anywhere, but they did, a couple years ago, put out a nice Blu-ray set that has all 3 movies and all of the straight-to-video OVAs. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of right now.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, Ranma 1/2, Big Trouble in Nekonlan, China. It was the first of the 3 Ranma feature movies.
Nice.
Check it out. It's fun. You'll laugh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to stick with the same animator, but I'm going to a different series.
Okay.
I am going to one of the 4 Inuyasha movies. Yes. I am doing... So this is the 3rd Inuyasha movie, and it is Inuyasha and the Sword of an Honorable Leader.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. Honorable Ruler. Sorry. I had it written down here. And so this came out in 2003, so I've kind of made a big jump here.
That's okay.
But all of my other films take place in the 2000s or later, so...
It's from 2004, so we're apparently just going in order.
Alrighty then, that works. So Inuyasha and the Sword of the Honorable Ruler. So this takes place... I can't tell you where in the series. I will be completely honest with you, but it definitely takes place, I think, later on. Like maybe...
one of the nice things about most anime movies is that it's not really important where they happen. Like, as long as you're mostly kind of familiar with the series, you can just watch the movie and you're fine. Yeah,
totally. So the Sword of the Honorable Ruler, it starts out with, it actually goes back into the past. And we see Sesshomaru and Inuyasha, Sesshomaru himself, and then Sesshomaru and Inuyasha's father.
Okay.
And they're having this conversation, and they're talking about the fact that Sesshomaru is going to get the Tenseiga, which is the, if any of you have seen the show, the Tenseiga is this sword that Sesshomaru gets that all it can really do is save people from dying.
Okay.
It's a sword of healing. It can't really kill anyone, and Sesshomaru thinks it's useless. So, and his father makes the comment, have you someone to protect, because that's the only reason why you're not getting the Tenseiga, which is Inuyasha's sword that he gets later. He gets in the series, which can kill people. So, so after they have that conversation, their father takes off and ends up flying to this village where he kind of, not really village, like there's like this temple, and he kind of just slaughters everyone as he's trying to get to his wife, or Inuyasha's mother, as she's giving birth to Inuyasha. And the main villain of the movie is actually standing over her and kills her with the sword, but the baby is stillborn. Not in the sense of like stillborn, not living, but
like continues to be born.
Yes. And Inuyasha's father shows up. He fights the guy, and I'm trying to find his name here. I'm sorry. This is kind of driving me crazy that I can't find the name of the villain here. But he fights him, saves Inuyasha and his mother, gives them the cloak of the fire rat, which is pretty much the red outfit that Inuyasha wears for the whole series. And they run off, and Inuyasha's father dies. So it's Takemaru. That's the name of the guy that he fought.
Okay.
And then we go all the way into the present day where, and I mean present day, I mean Kagome Higarashi's present day.
Which is still back in time.
And her family has this relic sword that they're putting into their shrine to have it be, stored away forever. And turns out the sword actually had a 700-year-old seal on it.
Okay.
And the 700-year-old seal breaks, and the sword kind of escapes. It escapes with its sheath and flies around modern-day Japan and finds Inuyasha and Kagome as they're walking back from Kagome's school, where he kind of interrupted her volleyball practice. And pretty much the whole thing is about this sword, which is called the... Hold on. I'm looking at the name of the sword. The Saunga.
Okay.
That is, yes.
Yeah.
The Saunga. That's the name of the sword. And it pretty much just follows the fact that, Inuyasha gets a hold of the sword and he takes it back to the feudal era, and it pretty much just comes this whole battle of the two brothers, Inuyasha and Sesshomaru, fighting against not only each other, which happens often in the series, but fighting against their father's third sword, which is the Sounga of Hell, which has the ability to kill people and then make them pretty much into zombies.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a really, it sounds complicated, but honestly, it's a really just simple, easy storyline to follow. The only confusing part is that the sword had a 700-year-old seal.
Mm-hmm.
And when Inuyasha was born was 200 years before Kagome ever came to the feudal era.
Okay.
Which gives us a nice timeline of how old he is.
Right.
His father, the Myoga, the little flea, and a few others, they threw the sword into the Bone Eater as well, which is what Kagome uses to travel from the present to the past. And apparently when they threw it into the well, it literally flew 100 years into the future, practically 700 years into the future, and that's when the seal broke. So when it comes back through the well, they're like, you were supposed to keep it sealed for 700 years. He's like, I only kept the seal for 200. I don't know what happened. So it's a weird thing where like the time delay actually caused the seal to break, which is really weird.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a really nice action-packed movie. It has a nice flavoring of all of like the character dynamics that you get through the series. And a lot of people that I've talked to who have watched Inuyasha and have seen any of the 4 movies, a lot of them actually like the second one more, which actually does have the main villain of the series, Naraku, in it and everything. But I actually like this one a little bit more. And it's actually and it's out of the 4, it's the only one I have a physical DVD copy of. So,
okay.
But yeah, no, I found it, I think, one day on YouTube before YouTube started charging people to watch movies.
Right. So yeah, someone had pirated a copy onto YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I stumbled across it, and I watched it and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then I went and found the other 3 films, and every time I think of an Inuyasha movie, my mind always goes to either this one or the second one. So it's really, really good. Really, it's got a lot of action. Got a lot of great character development between Inuyasha and Sesshomaru, as well as the other characters. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right. Well, my next pick, we jump to 2004.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence. Ghost in the Shell is one of my favorite things from Japan ever. And I really don't like that 1995 movie that they did. Which is weird because that's again one of those like anime classics. But yeah, something about that movie bothers me. Probably because I got introduced to the manga first, and the anime, the book was better, right? So, but the second movie, since it's not directly based on anything, it's pretty great. So yeah, like I said, it's a sequel to the 1995 anime film. Had a $20 million budget, again, give or take, based on exchange rate. And Major Motoko Kusanagi, who's the main character in Ghost in the Shell, like she's just not in this movie because she disappeared at the end of the Laughing Man case, which is what like the whole first thing was about. So this movie features Bateau, who's the big dude with the cybernetic eyes that kind of look like bottle caps.
Oh yeah.
So this is like he's my favorite character in Ghost in the Shell, anyways. So when it was like, oh, like this movie's about Bateau, like great, I'm in. And obviously the rest of Section 9 are in there, like the rookie Togusa and the Commander Aramaki, like they're they're all there. So this movie features a conspiracy where doll-like, how do I want to phrase this? Companion robots, adult companion robots, who are all being purchased by important individuals, are all malfunctioning around the same time and murdering the people who have purchased them.
Huh.
And it turns out that all of them are being inhabited by ghosts. And ghost in this refers to like spirits, like somebody's spirit went into someone's soul, went into all of these doll robots.
Yeah.
And so Section 9 gets put on the case, and so it's Batou and Togusa both trying to figure out what's going on, and also seeing if they can find Major Kusanagi to help them solve this mystery, because this is something that she would be able to figure out. But she's not around. Yeah, and it's a big, complicated science fiction cyberpunk movie. My favorite part of it is I have two favorite parts. One is any scene that involves Batou's Basset Hound, because the Basset Hound is animated basically perfectly.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure they got an actual Basset Hound and rotoscoped, like just traced over film of this dog moving around, because it's just beautiful.
Wow.
But there's a sequence in the movie where, as you're watching it, like the characters are going into this tower and they go, kind of exploring in it, and then after a couple minutes, like the scene resets back to them going towards the tower. And then they go in and they have a very similar conversation and experiences. And then the film resets back to them about to go into the tower. And that's when they realize, like, wait, someone's messing with us.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first that I saw it, I actually saw this movie, and I got to see this movie in theaters. It got released for like a week and a half. But a buddy of mine was like, hey, you like Ghost in the Shell, right? And I was like, yeah. To go see it in theaters? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, it's like the sequel. And I was like, even better. I didn't even know they were working on one. So, like I thought that there was something wrong with the projector when we got to that scene, and it was just looping. And then I was like, wait, but they said like their dialogue is a little bit different. Like, what is going on?
That's trippy.
Yeah. When they start screwing with your brain like that in movies, it's pretty great. The reception of this movie seems to be like slightly above average. Like everywhere's kind of got it at about a 65%, which I feel is not. I feel it's better than that. But a lot of people said that the movie is very complicated, and so they felt a lot of audiences could get lost. And I was like, yeah, I guess I can see that.
Yeah.
But there was one quote by Manola Dargis from the New York Times, who said, Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence doesn't just reveal a wealth of visual enchantments. It restates the case that there can and should be more feature-length animations, or there should be more to feature-length animations than just cheap jokes, pathos, and pandering. So, yeah, basically, we should make some more animated films that aren't just, hey, look at the funny animals and let's laugh at them.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see like a pretty big film critic from a pretty big newspaper acknowledge that, like, yeah, this movie's great, and it's a good reminder that we can do more with animation as a medium than we're doing.
Yeah. So, awesome.
Yeah. So Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. Check it out. It's good times.
Sweet. So Andy, I know we talked about how everything's in a timeline. I have to ask out of curiosity, what year does your next movie come out?
2015.
Okay. Because mine comes out 2016.
Okay. Well, then we'll break the order of real life time. That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, my next film, I mean, like, so out of all the films that we've talked about so far, we have sci-fi and action and adventure and good feel-good comedy in the sense of like Kiki and everything like that. This one's a bit more angsty.
Okay.
This one is a bit more dramatic, and it hits with some real life topics pretty damn well.
Okay. What movie?
So when I was trying to think of a fourth film and everything, like there are other anime films that I do like out there. I was tempted to do another another one from one of the other films I have listed, like one of the sequels or the first one or whatever. But I chose this one because it's I don't know how to quite put it, but I feel like it's a good one. It's a good life lesson movie type of thing.
Okay.
It is on Netflix.
Okay.
It is called A Silent Voice.
Oh, I've heard of this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, long story short, the main character of the movie, he in like elementary school, he picks on the deaf girl.
Mm.
Yeah, it's got some bullying moments. But Ishidaya, which is the name of the main character, he pretty much picks on this girl who is hard of hearing, and it's like elementary school class, and he does it for like a couple reasons. He does it because he's not quite sure what, like he's almost testing like her ability to hear in a way of just like, wait, how much can you hear type of thing. And then the other part of it's just him being a jerk. Because, it's funny and everyone else is laughing at me and I think I'm popular like that type of thing. However, one day the bullying goes a little too far and it actually ends up hurting her because they end up actually ripping out her implants.
Mm.
And the entire class and the entire school turns against him.
Mm-hmm.
All of them rat him out, saying he's the one responsible when there are probably 7 or 8 other people also responsible for it. And it is actually a little hard to watch. This kid just suddenly go from being like, wait, I thought it was funny to do all these things. I don't understand why suddenly everyone hates me type of thing. Mm-hmm. And it goes to the future where now he's in high school. And he's still kind of an outcast. People still don't talk to him. People treat him like, they still treat him like the bad kid that he was in elementary school, which is really, really sad. But apparently he ends up discovering that the deaf girl, Shoko, actually still lives nearby, and he goes to meet her and he apologizes to her. And what's great is he actually apologizes to her in sign language.
Oh, nice.
During the years after she left, he spent learning sign language so he could apologize to her. Which is crazy and amazing at the same time. And from there it just goes on how they try to build like a friendship together. And how he's trying to get over the fact that people still see him as that kid from way back when and not see him for what he's doing now. Sure. Yeah. And it's a deep cut. Like it hits hard in many places. Like it's got, obviously it goes into stuff about disabilities with hard of hearing. It goes into bullying. It goes into, what else does it go into? Depression, suicide. Like it goes into a lot of really deep stuff. Yeah. And when I was watching it, I was sitting here going like, why am I still watching this? Why? And I think it was because a part of me still wanted the satisfying happy ending, which it does have a happy ending, in the sense that he stops seeing people as being against him and starts seeing them as just people. And he sees his friends, he sees his family, and it's got a lot of just great stuff in it. And it can teach a lot of people to, don't be so judgmental, get a chance to learn something new or learn about somebody new. And I think it speaks volumes even more because he comes from a gay family. I say that because his mother remarried a woman, and she had a kid already. So like he has 2 moms in this movie. So it speaks volumes on how just like many steps forward this movie is. Yeah. And how it can literally just take like one person, even if it is a silent voice, to be there for you type of thing. And it's a really deep cut. I recommend it if anyone is interested in something like that and watching a movie like that. But at the same time, I completely understand if you don't.
Yeah, it sounds pretty heavy.
Oh, yeah. There was not a dry eye in the house. And by dry eye in the house, I mean me in the bedroom with my headphones and my phone.
Yeah, so. I believe it. Huh.
All right, let's go to something lighter. What's your next film?
Oh, my next movie is about death and resurrection. No, for my last pick, I picked Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, which came out in 2015. It was the 19th overall Dragon Ball movie, or 15th and probably final Dragon Ball Z movie. The difference being
there are that many Dragon Ball movies.
There's 20. There's another one that came out afterwards. There's a lot of Dragon Ball. There's 60,000 episodes of Dragon Ball. That's not correct. It's pretty close, but so Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F is a direct sequel to 2013's Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods. And it is the second movie to be directly overseen by Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama. All the other movies were just kind of done by the animation studio, just doing their own thing. Once they decided to bring back Dragon Ball for some new stuff, Toriyama was like, "No, I'm going to oversee this. Like, I'm going to make sure you're doing this right."
Good call.
The premise, I mean, it's right in the title, like Resurrection F. You can kind of figure out like this movie. So the basic premise of Dragon Ball is there's a bunch of martial artists and they're all fighting space aliens, and they're fighting over the Dragon Balls, which are 7 balls that when gathered together, you can grant a wish. Pretty much all of the movies start with the bad guys making a wish.
Oh no.
So this one of the trailers described as the worst wish in history, where Sorbet, who is one of the minions of the evil emperor and deceased Frieza, wishes for Frieza to be resurrected. Frieza is the worst villain in Dragon Ball.
Worst in the sense of like seriously, no one likes him, or worse in the sense of like he will murder us all?
Both. Nobody likes Frieza because he's a tyrant who rules like half the universe.
Okay.
And he at the end of the second season, I guess, anime is different about seasons than American shows are, but like the second big arc, Frieza is destroyed by Goku and the other Z fighters, as they've been dubbed in America. So Frieza's been dead since basically like the midpoint of the show, and I believe that aired in like the late 80s. So it had been a good long time.
Oh yeah.
And they just wished for him to be brought back to life. And it's a little more complicated since he got blown up and everything and blah blah blah. But when he is resurrected, he's like, all right, well, I want to go get my revenge on those idiots from Earth. And they're like, well, here's the thing. You know how Goku, it turned out he was the legendary Super Saiyan? Listeners, if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry. Like, Dragon Ball has a lot of lore, and since this took place well after the series is over, it just kind of assumes that you know some of it.
Yeah.
But, it turns out a bunch of them are. And it turns out, like, they're all way more powerful than they used to be. So Frieza's like, all right, well, I guess I'll go train for a few months. And trains for 3 months. And becomes infinitely more powerful than he was before.
Oh, geez.
Which is especially crazy since, he was one of the most powerful beings in the universe before that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, we're down to like 10 minutes of time, so I'm going to speed through this.
Okay.
Jaco, the Galactic Patrolman, who's like a space cop from another Akira Toriyama comic, like, he just shows up and is like, hey, guys on Earth, Frieza's back. You got to go stop him. And so basically it's they all get together and they're all like, what are we going to do? And blah, blah, blah. And it's Dragon Ball. So there's a whole bunch of fighting. But this is the movie that debuted the Super Saiyan Blue or Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan form for Goku, where his hair turns blue instead of gold. And we also are introduced to Golden Frieza, which is his final form. Where it looks like weird Frieza, but he's got gold skin now because anime is weird. And then through the fight, we find out Vegeta now can also turn Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, which is crazy. Like, great, everyone's super powerful now. That's that. Yeah. And this movie's crazy because Frieza actually succeeds in destroying the Earth.
What?
Yep, that happens. And then the gods hit the reset button so that the heroes have 3 minutes. They go back in time 3 minutes to undo that. And they end up defeating Frieza, and he ends up with being stuck in hell. At the end of the movie.
Like you do, I guess?
Like you do. Yeah. Yeah. Couple interesting things about this movie. One, this is the first Japanese film ever to be screened in IMAX 3D.
Wow.
Yeah. This movie was also turned into the second story arc of the ongoing anime series Dragon Ball Super.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just expanded upon it and gave it more details. I haven't watched that because I've already seen the movie, and I don't feel like I need to watch more Dragon Ball than I have. But I was reading the Dragon Ball Super manga, and when you get to this point, it literally just says, "Yeah, just go watch the movie."
Breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, like there's a caption box that shows Goku and Frieza fighting, and it's just like, you know what? If you want to know what happens here, just go watch the movie. We're not going to redraw all of this. That's stupid. So that was pretty great. My other favorite thing about this movie is there's a scene where Goku gets shot with a bullet and almost dies. So to anyone who thinks that Goku could beat Superman, you're wrong, because an in-canon Dragon Ball story shows him almost getting killed by a bullet.
And Superman gets hit with bullets all the time, and he doesn't get a scar.
Superman got shot in the eyeball with a bullet, and it bounced off. So suck it. Superman wins. And that's all I have to say about Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F.
All right. Well, for the final film,
yes,
so
for which we have like 5 minutes. So
I will move as quickly as I can. So this one came out in 2017. This is the second fairy tale feature film.
Okay.
I actually remember it coming out to theaters because I desperately wanted to go see it in theaters and then did not get back from my trip in time to do it. It's going to be very sad. But the movie pretty much follows the team from Fairy Tail, the main characters and everything like that. Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Urza, Happy, Wendy, Carla, all those guys. And pretty much what happens is there is another country, like this island with really beautiful crystals and gems that at night almost like glow like a rainbow color in the moonlight. Okay. Like it's a really pretty island. But this former wizard from Fiore, which is the country or Ishgar or whatever, which is the main country where Fairy Tail's located. He and this this lady of like, I don't want to say power, but like she's an important person in this country. They pretty much break into a security vault, okay, and they steal this staff called the Dragon Cry. And that's pretty much the name of the movie, Fairy Tail Dragon Cry. And the staff actually has consumed the magical power and essence of dragons for years and years and years until, obviously, dragons disappeared 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. But they steal the staff and they take it back to their home. And the king of Fiore or asks the Fairy Tail crew, like, "Hey, can you guys go to this place and get the Dragon Cry back, because it's a very, very powerful weapon, and if these people unleash it, they could end up destroying their entire island." So they go get the staff back, and it pretty much just follows them, going undercover and trying to, sneak into the vault and get the staff, and like there's this whole thing of after they try to sneak in, they end up being captured, and it's a really, like, Fairy Tail only has 2 movies. It has this one and it has the Phoenix Priestess, which is the first one, which the Phoenix Priestess one actually takes place, and I know this because I've watched Fairy Tail way too much, takes place just after the Grand Magic Games arc, which is like the big arc of Fairy Tail. Mm-hmm. Where the animation style actually changed and they took like a couple year break. So it takes place between there. And it doesn't take place between that timeline. It takes place after that arc.
Sure.
That wasn't finished until a couple of years later. Okay. But that one's really, really good, and I really do enjoy that one. But the Dragon Cry, there's just something like the animation style is gorgeous. It's so beautiful, and plus everyone is like at their highest when it comes to their power, and like there's several moments of where ships are pretty much confirmed in a weird way, but not actually confirmed. And it's got a lot of great action. It's got a lot of great fighting, and it flows so nicely and so well, and it's a nice preparation for the final arc of Fairy Tale to come, of the fact that it's like, this is kind of like our last hurrah before you get the final episodes. Either that, or it takes place after the final arc and before the 100-year quest.
Okay.
So, either way, I thoroughly enjoy the movie. I have watched it several times now. I endorse it. I would say people go watch it. However, out of all the films I listed, only 2 are on Netflix. And that is the Inuyasha one and A Silent Voice.
Yeah, none of the 4 I talked about are streaming anywhere. You're just going to have to buy them. But they're all easy to find, so...
Yeah. Kiki is a hard one to find. I mean, like, you can rent it, I think, on Amazon Prime or something, but...
Okay.
But Fairy Tail, I think, is on the Funimation streaming service, so...
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, so if you have that, check it out there. But yeah, that's all I have for anime movies.
Well, and that's all the time we have for this episode. So, hey, if you liked this, subscribe to us on whatever podcatcher you're using to listen to us right now. Otherwise, you can check us out on the social media. You can find us at Atomic Monsoon on Twitter and Facebook, and Atomic Monsoon with the underscore between the words on Instagram. And if you have comments or suggestions, or just want to tell us some of your favorite anime movies, hit us up on atomicmonsoon@gmail.com and let us know.
And thanks, guys, for listening and being here with us here on this Wednesday. It's just with Friday being considered a national holiday, we recorded early, so we're glad that you guys were able to be here to listen, and we hope you all have a safe and fun holiday weekend. Yeah. And if there's no holiday where you live, we hope you have a safe weekend.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone be safe. Everyone have a good time, and be sure to join us next time we have a new episode.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.